I'm so happy that you guys are here. So I first want to just take the opportunity to thank you for taking time out on this beautiful Saturday afternoon to spend it with me and to help me and to invest in my education. I'm very grateful and very appreciative that you're here. Freedom from communication and speaking anxiety. In order to even approach that topic, I think it's really important to first define communication and to define what communication and speaking anxiety is. And then I will move forward and give suggestions and ideas about how to have better communication, why you should have better communication, how to have communication freedom and overcome communication and speaking anxiety. According to my text, as you can see, Communicating for Results, it defines communication as the process of people sharing their thoughts, feelings, and ideas in a common, understandable way. Something that we do every day as human beings. We all need to communicate. It's the process of sharing our thoughts, feelings, and ideas in an understandable way. And again, it's really important because as human beings, that's what we do. We go to the 7-Eleven in the morning and we grab our coffee, we go to the grocery store, we greet our coworkers, we move along throughout the day, hopefully communicating in an understandable way. And we all need to do that. It's part of being human. So what is communication anxiety? Well, I can share a little bit about that. I've had communication and speaking anxiety since I read my syllabus for this class. I thought I'm going to drop. And I know that many of you have heard me speak before in front of hundreds of people with very little anxiety, or hidden anxiety, or overcoming anxiety. I've even spoken in front of thousands of people. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what has created the anxiety today that's different in other situations. But anxiety is that feeling, right? The butterflies in our stomach, we feel like we're going to vomit, we might start perspiring, our heart starts to pound, our blood pressure goes up, we're sweating, now we can't remember what we're going to say, and we're confused. We sometimes can even feel dizzy and we're like, oh, heck no, I'm not doing that. That's anxiety. There are two main types, according to my textbook, there are two main types of anxiety. There's situational anxiety and there's trait anxiety. And if you're lucky, you can have them both. So what is situational anxiety? So situational anxiety is basically what is happening to me, right? I can speak in certain situations, but as soon as I read my syllabus and it said, so you have a time limit. You have to talk about a topic that you don't really know about, and you have to be recorded. And not only are you going to be video recorded, but you're going to be graded and critiqued by your teacher, right? My heart starts pounding, I'm like, oh my God. And then I have to gather people together on top of it, right? I have to ask friends to do favors. And I started thinking, oh my, who am I going to have to help move after this? So I have situational anxieties, and you might think, well, I can speak in this situation, right? Because the experts say that 95% of all people have some degree of anxiety in some situations at some time. 95%. And I'm not in that other 5%. I don't know who those people are. Maybe they're professionals. But so 95% of all people. So if you don't hear anything else today, what I would like to leave you with is that it is not, communication and speaking ability is not innate. We are not born with it. It is something that we learn, which is good, because if you had to be born with it, then I think like 95% of us would be in trouble. So it's something that we learn and something that we can get better at. And then, so you have the situation, like you might think, well, I'm really good, I can communicate with a person one-on-one, but don't ask me to speak in front of a group, or I can talk to a group of people, but one-on-one, it's too intimate for me. Or I can talk to my coworkers all day long, but if I have to go in my boss's office, I start to sweat and I can't ask for a raise. I definitely am not changing jobs. I don't like my job, but I'm not going on an interview. So it's situational. And then you have trait anxiety, which is that internal anxiety, that it's a feeling of inadequacy or fear regardless of the situation. It's that negative self-talk. Who wants to listen to me? Nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. As a matter of fact, I've done it before and I was really bad at it, and I'm never doing it again. So, an example of what happened to me is I started out with having situational anxiety, and then it morphed into trait anxiety, and I had both of them because I'm like, oh, what am I going to talk? Who wants to come to my house on Saturday afternoon? So it started with the negative self-talk. So you have situational, you have trait, or you can have both. So you might ask yourself, who cares? Why bother? So I say, why bother? So this is why I bother, to overcome my anxiety. Because when I cannot communicate my thoughts, feelings, and ideas to others, I'm in prison. I'm in a communication prison. So I want to take this with you, right? This vision of what happens when we are unable to communicate our thoughts, feelings, and ideas. So I say, let's find freedom. How are we going to get free? Nobody wants to be this. I know I do. So that's why I'm taking a speaking class. That's why I'm moving through my anxieties, because I don't want to be imprisoned by my own self-created prison. The other reason why I bother is because the experts in research from my book say that people who have less communication skills are perceived as less competent. They're unsuccessful in interviews. They typically hold lower status and lower paying jobs. They have less job satisfaction, and they are likely to not be promoted to a supervisory position. So when it comes into your work environment, it's really important to hone in on those communication skills and to find ways to cope with anxiety. So you might be saying, well, I'm not going to ever do any of that. But what, for example, if you have children and they're getting married and one of them comes to you and says, Mom, Dad, I want you to do a speech at my wedding. Will you be able to overcome your anxiety? What if your best friend passes away and someone says, Joe really wanted you to do their eulogy? Would you be able to do that? Would you have the skills to overcome? So what are the solutions? How do we find freedom from communication anxiety? Well, one, again, we aren't born with the skills, so we can change. We can change the way we think and the way we feel about who we are and how we communicate, how we share our thoughts, feelings, and ideas with other people. Now, what did I do to overcome my anxiety? I took action. I prepared. I did research about my topic. So if you had to do a eulogy, you could do research. You could find out, what am I supposed to do? You could ask someone. So it's plan, it's action, it's plan, prepare. And that's what I did. And then what did I do? I practice. How many times did I stand here and practice what I was going to say? So it's planning and practicing. And it's about doing it out loud, to a mirror, to a friend, to yourself. It's about getting feedback, being willing to look and critique yourself or have someone else do that. It takes practice and planning in order to overcome anxiety, whether it's situational or trait. The other thing I did today is I warmed up. I warmed up my voice like a singer before you came here. I chant. So other people, there are many different ways to warm up your voice so that I could have confidence in my speaking voice. I stretched, I did a meditation, and that moves us into positive imagery. Right? Positive imagery is amazing to combat, especially trade, because when you're doing positive imagery and you're thinking about positive things, it's really hard to think positive and negative at the same time. And so when you're doing positive imagery, you could say things to yourself like, I can do this. People do want to hear what I have to say. I have something valuable and important. I have important thoughts, ideas, and feelings. Right? If you have to ask for a raise from your boss, so you plan it. You write down why. You practice it with a friend, and then you do positive imagery where you see yourself moving into their office and being successful. The other thing, of course, as a yoga teacher, you know I'm all about the deep breathing. Deep breathing will calm your heart rate, just like positive imagery. It lowers our blood pressure. It helps us to relax. It can actually calm the stomach and the gastric acids in your stomach. It's so important to breathe, right? And I did all those things this morning before you guys were here. I didn't just stand up here and feel it out, right? This has been a work in progress for 6 weeks. And I did have anxiety, and I feel great right now. Like my anxiety is lifted, and I feel very comfortable. The other thing that's really interesting, I don't know if anyone has ever heard of Dr. Amy Cuddy, but she has a large amount of videos on YouTube. And so if you're interested in learning a little bit more, she has done a lot of research and experiments with body language and how that alters how we present ourselves. And so one of the research experiments that she did was she had people stand in a power pose, Wonder Woman pose, for 2 minutes. And they did saliva test. So they took a saliva test before, then they stood for 2 minutes in a power pose. Then they did a saliva test afterwards, and what they found out was testosterone, which is the masculine power-creating hormone, went up. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone, went down. And then they did the opposite, where people who sat in a submissive pose, they tested them, and their testosterone went down, and their cortisol went up. And so one of the examples that she presented is when you go on a job interview, what do people do? They sit with their phone in a non-power position, when they should be in the bathroom, standing in a power pose, and breathing deeply. Because what you want is your testosterone level to go up and your cortisol level to go down. So there are things that we can do. We're not stuck with our anxiety, right? Suppose that you have to do a presentation. You're great. You can do your presentations all day long, but as soon as you get in front of your teacher, right, you have anxiety. So there are things that you can do. There's so much information out there. There's positive imagery on the internet. Today we're so fortunate. There's so many resources. You can just say, bring me up a breathing exercise. I need positive self-talk imagery. You can watch Dr. Amy Cuddy. She has some amazing information. So, freedom from communication and speaking anxiety. What I would like you again to take with you today is that we are not born with it. It is not innate. We're not born with the ability to necessarily express our thoughts, feelings, ideas in an understandable way. But the good news is we can change. We have the power to do that. We have the power to share our thoughts, feelings, and ideas with others. And not only that, The world needs our thoughts, feelings, and ideas. It needs my thoughts, feelings, and ideas, and it needs your thoughts, feelings, and ideas. It's normal to have anxiety. And I am really glad that I worked through mine and that I could share my thoughts and feelings and ideas on this topic with you today. And I encourage you to go out and share your thoughts, feelings, and ideas with others. Thank you.
All right.